I don't know how many people we're going to end up getting. There are 26 people registered. So that's why I've been sort of holding off getting started, but it's 4:06. And for those of you who are on time, I don't want to hold you up. I am going to ask, if possible, the people who don't have the cameras on, if you would mind turning on the camera. If you don't, that's so. If you do mind or can't do it for some reason, that's okay. But if you can, it's nice to see everybody's faces, because this is going to be more of an interactive activity, not me sitting here talking the whole time. I do want to go around and have everybody introduce themselves, but since not that many people are on yet, I think what I'll do is just start by talking a little bit about myself. Oh, no problem, Holly, no problem. Well, that's cute. I like that. Charles, is that Charles? We can't hear you. That's the other thing. And you can also unmute your mic if you want, unless you got a lot of noise behind you. But anyway.
Oh, I'm noisy.
Is that the St. Patrick's Day bunny?
No, that's the brains behind the enterprise.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so I put my LinkedIn profile in the invite, and so if you've had a chance to look at my LinkedIn, that's great. If you haven't, even if you have, I still think it'll be helpful for me to give just a little tiny synopsis of my background, so you know where I come from. I was born in a town called Lynchburg, Virginia, which is in central Virginia. And it happens to be also the home of, or was the home, still is sort of, the home of GE Mobile Communications, which is morphed since that time, and that time being the early 80s, from GE Mobile to Ericsson GE to ComNet Ericsson to Macom to Tyco to Harris to L3 Harris. So if anybody knows who L3 Harris is, that is the same company as GE Mobile Communications, which was in my hometown. And I went to school in New England and England, and ended up at MIT for a while. And I was doing organization development, working at MIT for employees, and decided to go back and get an MBA. And so I got an MBA at Harvard Business School. And at the end of my first year at Harvard, my mom called me and said my dad wasn't doing so well. So I flew home, and he really wasn't doing so well. So I thought maybe I had a job in Boston all set up, but I thought maybe I should be with her that summer. I was married, but my husband was okay with this. So I dropped my resume off to every business in town. I grown up on a farm. I really didn't know anything about GE, but I knew they were there. So I dropped my resume off. And when I got back to Boston after my father's funeral that next week, GE called me and said, well, we have this summer job in strategic planning. We'd like to have you come work for us. And I was saying, I didn't ask them what they did, which is kind of strange. I just asked them whether they were consumer marketing or industrial marketing, whether they were in industry or more consumer focused. And they said industry, and that suited me. So I said, okay, I'll come. So I walked into GE Mobile Communications in June of 1979, not having a clue as to what a mobile radio was, but I soon learned, and I kind of fell in love with the people and the company and the industry. And when they offered me a full-time job in 1980 after I graduated, we moved to Lynchburg, my husband and I started work at GE. It's okay, Rachel. And so I worked at GE in their mobile communications department. I was a history major, so I had absolutely no technical background at all, but I somehow ended up in product management and learned on the job, I guess you could call it. So I did a lot of product management for the dealer radio at the time. My first product was the MPI. If anybody goes back that far and knows that radio, it's a little 2-watt two-way radio that we sold to our dealers. And I ended up also doing product management for our police radios and for our speech encryption systems and for our digital trunking systems. for about 12 years. And then I got a call from Motorola, and they wanted me to come to work for them in Schaumburg, Illinois. So I moved to Schaumburg and worked for Motorola for 12 years, both in Schaumburg and down in Plantation, Florida, and then back in Schaumburg. And during that time, I managed their dealer business at one point. I managed their secure encryption business, and I managed their high-tier subscriber business worldwide, including like 212 engineers reporting to me in Florida and a 500-person factory, and I had about a $500 million P&L that I was responsible for. So I was happy at Motorola, but I got an opportunity to go to E.F. Johnson when they moved their business to Irving, Texas. So as a COO, so I worked for them for a few years. And then I got the opportunity to come out to Zetron to be CEO of Zetron, which Zetron doesn't do radios, but they do dispatch consoles and they do E911 systems. And they're based in Redmond, Washington, outside of Seattle, but they're owned by they were owned by Kenwood. And so I actually worked for Kenwood. And I was CEO for about 7 years. And then I retired from that in 2016 and became chairman of the board of both Zetron and E.F. Johnson, which was, after I left E.F. Johnson, bought by Kenwood as well. And then I was also chair of our industry association, which is the Industry Council for Emergency Response Technology, for about 5 years. And I retired completely from everything in April of 2020, right after the pandemic started. And I've been living happily ever after. And so that's just a little bit of snapshot of how I got into the industry and what my background is. So that's all I really want to say for now. I've got some thoughts on, I mentioned in my letter about networking and finding mentors, but also dealing with some of the challenging situations sometimes women meet as they go through their careers, particularly in an industry like ours that is quite male dominated. It was certainly very male dominated back in the 80s. Yeah, Charles. And as I was saying earlier, some of you didn't hear, I am not a ham, but I certainly understand ham radio and amateur radio. I mean, worked for Kenwood and Motorola, of course. So what I'd like to do now is just, if people can, and if you can't, you can message me and tell me you can't. But if people can, I'd like for everybody to have an opportunity to introduce themselves and just a minute or less, which is, how long you've been in wireless, if you work for a wireless company now or have in the past, who that is. And a little bit later on, we'll have an opportunity for people to talk about what they'd like to get out of this session. If we continue to go on a either every other month or quarterly basis. And then we'll wrap things up. As I said, after the introductions, I'll talk a little bit about my networking, then we'll talk in general and have people talk about what they'd like to get out of it, or maybe share some stories. This will end right at 5 o'clock. So I'm hoping I can remember to check my time. So 4:15, and I'm going to start with Carol. Carol, would you like to give us just a thumbnail sketch of you and where you live too, so we all know where we are?
Okay, I'm assuming I'm the only Carol on here. I live in Staten Island, New York, and I was in the electronics manufacturing business for about 5 years. And then when the company relocated, I decided to go back to my first love, which was teaching. And I had a perfect storm of an enlightened principal, and the timing was correct. I went back to teaching a middle school in Staten Island, where I actually wrote the curriculum to teach Introduction to Amateur Radio. The 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And it was just as a trial run. And when I looked up, it was 30 years later. And And because it was such a successful class, the kids loved it, I loved it. We made 16 different astronaut contacts with the space shuttle through amateur radio. And the course was a big success. The kids loved it, as I said, I did. And simultaneously, I was doing youth forums at the Dayton Amateur Radio, ham radio convention, which is the biggest radio convention in the world. And this will be my 33rd year now of featuring and showcasing and supporting 8 to 10 young people who have done creative things in technology via their fun in amateur radio. That's the premier youth forum that I do every year. And in Dayton as well, I do the instructors forum, giving ideas to teachers and scoutmasters and youth group leaders how to incorporate ham radio. And I'm in charge of RCA youth activities, or I'm a director, and I'm a director and in charge of youth activities for QCWA, excuse me, as well, which is an amateur radio organization. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's great, Carol. It's a wonderful summary. And it's wonderful the work you're doing. It's just great.
Thank you.
Nisha.
Neerja, yeah. Hello, everyone. So my name is Neerja Sharma, and I live in New Jersey in a small town called Metuchen. I work with MTA, Metropolitan Transportation Authority of New York. Yeah.
Our customers at Zetron, yes. Big customer of Zetron's, yes.
Right. So I do have amateur technician license, but I'm not actively involved in doing much with that. So my journey in wireless communication started after I graduated from Drexel with master's degree in telecommunications. And I worked with a couple of companies for about 4 or 5 years. Then I took a break when I had, my daughter. I didn't want to go out and work and leave her somewhere. So I took a break, and then after a couple of years, I joined back in MTA. There I work as a radio engineer. It's my 16th year working there. And we do radio networks, wireless networks for transit system of New York. So it's very interesting, having the challenges of the whole system working underground, and a big fleet of buses of about 6,000, 7,000 on the road, and having them to communicate with the centralized system with all the challenges. So, I have 2 children, college going, both, and that's about it for me.
That's an exciting career. That's really great.
Yeah. So this is my first time joining this kind of event, or a meeting, and I just wanted to see how it is, and I was hoping I'll see a lot of women. So it's nice to see so many of you, and looking forward to hear from everyone.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And Anne Marie, we got an Anne Marie and an Anna Marie. So Anne Marie right now.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am here in Anacortes, Washington, and my delay is because I have a satellite dish up, so it will probably be a delay for you to receive my speaking. I'm involved in ham radio, and I have been for 10 years. What we do here is it's emergency preparedness communications club. We work with the fire, the police, the hospital, and with the school bus barns and Salvation Army. So we set up each week with all our ham operators, go to different facilities, and we test our radio equipment. And then when we have any type of an emergency, we are prepared, whether it's for tsunamis, earthquakes, sinkholes, or whatever the emergency may be. been doing that, and I started in Anacortes a Foxy Ladies Ham Radio Operators Club. And I have 45 young ladies that will come out and go to these different locations, know how to handle the radio, and know what to do in case of an emergency. So basically, and I'm retired and having fun doing this, and interesting to hear some of you other ladies. And thank you for letting me chime in.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. Diane. Diane Harris. I don't think.
Good afternoon. I'm Diane Harris. I'm in Monroe, Washington, so not too far from Anne Marie. So that's exciting stuff to hear that you're doing. My venture into radio was back in the 90s in the US Navy. So I was a radioman there on board the USS Nimitz. So I spent 4 years in the Navy, got out of there and went back to school to do my electronics degree because I wanted to understand how everything worked. During that time, I got my ham license, and I was at school just up the hill from Zetron. So my radio background in the Navy and my ham license is what got me in there. And I spoke Spanish at the time, so I did the Latin American market there. So I've now been at Zetron for 17 years, and a couple of years ago, I moved over to product management as well. So expanding my knowledge as the next gen 911 product manager. So I've got kind of the radio side and the phone side, and it's been really fun to pull that all together. So I'm really excited to hear from all of the experiences you've had, and hopefully I can pull upon some of your knowledge to take that with me in my own career. And hopefully there's some things I can share that you can take with you as well. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Diane. All right, Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan Ronning. I own AdCom Engineering in Portland and Washington area. So I've been in the business 25 years or something now. I was in the Navy. I was an avionics technician. I worked on F-18s. Go Navy. So I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do because I hated math and I love science. And so I went into the Navy, and then I got my degree. So I got an associate's degree in electronics technology, and then I got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. Decided to go into wireless communications. I had somebody tell me that, oh yeah, that's great because all of the guys that are in that are going to die. And so therefore there's jobs. So that's, that's why I got into wireless.
It's so true.
And it's still like that. So I did a couple internships, and one of them was with Motorola. So I was an engineer for Motorola at a college and worked in San Diego. I'm currently in Portland, Oregon, but I was in the San Diego office working for Motorola. I did that for about 5 years. My client talked me into coming to work for them. So I left and went to go work for City of Glendale, and I implemented the system I designed. And then and somewhere along the way, I heard that consultants make millions of dollars just telling people what to do. And so I was like, oh, I'll go into consulting. So, it's not true. So anyhow, so I went to go work for Kimball and Associates, who became, basically those are now mission critical partners, guys. And then I also went to go work for Federal Engineering, and I left them and I went to Tate Communications. And so Tate had an opening, and I was up in Portland by this time. And those guys are fantastic. They really are fun to work with. So I worked for Tate, really enjoyed it, but you know what, that glass ceiling, for whatever reason, I couldn't convince my boss that yeah, I was better than the other guy that was a brown noser. So I said, forget it, I'm leaving, I'm going to do my own thing. And I did my own little consulting firm. And then Joe Blashka reached out to me, who owned AdCom Engineering, and asked if I'd be interested in taking over his company because he had owned it for 40 years and was looking for someone to take it on. And he was the old guy.
He was the old guy that was retiring.
Yeah. So he's been fantastic. He's still on board, and he's really doing a great job, like trying to exchange and transfer information. So it's really been really fun. And we took the company. When I took it over from him, he had 5 people. He didn't want to hire much more because he was going to retire. So we're now up to 15. So
Excellent.
yeah, so it's been going really good. So so I'm really grateful to him to be able to give me the opportunity to take this on, and we're really excited. And it's really nice to have. We have almost half of our team is female, so it's pretty nice.
That's great.
Uh-huh.
Well, our paths have been going like this, so
Yeah.
it's fun to catch up sometime.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So anyhow, so that's where I'm at. But this is I love this field, and I'm glad it's nice to be able to see some other ladies in here.
It is.
Mhm.
Anita.
Okay. My parents told me I had to go to a 4-year college, so I did it, but it wasn't what I really wanted to do. They said pick a major, and I couldn't decide. I tried medical. I was too scared of the whole female thing back in the early 70s I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, but I chickened out. Then, let's see, after my 4-year degree, I went to work for the university where I went to school and in their library for 6 years. I decided to get a better job, and then I went to what I really wanted to do. I wanted to work in a machine shop. So I took a 2-year course because I wanted to teach machine shop in high school. I found out how many on-the-job hours you had to have, and I went, oh my God, now I'm still a single female in my mid-30s going, this is crazy. So I decided not to get my master's, didn't know, I never could make up my mind and still don't know at age 68 what I want to be when I grow up. I really don't. I've loved everything. I took the training to run CNCs, but in Syracuse, New York, there was only 1 or 2 places. They were by seniority, not by what you knew. The whole male thing, you understand it all back then. I wouldn't even go into it, how frustrating it was. So I went back to medical records. I've taken coding, transcription when I was in my probably early 60s. So I could do a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm disabled, and it's just been a weird life. And I am so applauding of you ladies that have figured out how to do what you've all done. It's impressive. I'm like that George Plimpton. I've done a little bit of everything. I've done police dispatching, fire dispatching. So I've never had mic fright, and I only got a technician license because my husband asked me to join him in what was going to become his hobby about 7 years ago when he found out code wasn't required. He'd always wanted to be a ham since he was 16, and his dad was a licensed CB person. So in about 2015 or so, whatever the math is, 7 years ago approximately, we in 1 year from one field day, we were bored in Oswego, New York, where it snows, lake effect snow at eastern end of Lake Ontario. I was bored. I said, look, let's just go to this thing. It's supposed to be in some trailer. It's around the corner at the fire station. I said, let's just go. They say they're going to be there 24 hours. So 10 o'clock, it is literally a dark and stormy night. We show up, found out code wasn't required. The next day, Steve ordered ham radio for dummies for me at my request. And he got the technician manual from ARRL. And by the next field day, we all had 3 licenses.
Wow.
The only reason I took all 3 was to be a VE. Well, about 1.5 years to 2 years ago, I started being mentored by a recent retiree from Boeing, an engineer, who has got to be one of the top hams in the Huntsville area. And he and I went out on POTA expeditions, learning to do parks on the air. And we have developed a group, a following. We've spawned offshoots. I've gotten into the kid end of it, I've gotten a ham radio presence at an Earth Day locally, which has never happened. When you meet Holly later in this little presentation, she's someone I met and put her in touch with some ARIS teachers aid. That's the acronym for, I don't know what, but they're NASA or something. And Carol Perley, you were there too, at the last Ham Fest. So I got Holly in touch with fellow teachers who could talk teacher lingo. That's what I do, is kind of play Yenta to people in ham radio. And I love doing the VE things and advising new hams with what to do. Not that I know, but that I can find out who can find the answers. So I created in the Huntsville area an outreach program, and I could do better at it. At least it's in its infancy. It's only been doing it about a year, and I have 1 helper. But this whole networking thing, especially with women, we have a women's group in Huntsville, and I figured there'd be like 300 people on this seminar, and I can't believe there's not as many as I'd hoped. But anyway, that's my spiel. I've done a whole lot of stuff that I didn't mention, but I kind of sewed all my life and was into just spring retirement, figuring I'll just rocking chair my way into death. I heard Bob Heil speak in 2019. And so I decided to run for a position on the board, and I've just immersed myself in ham radio, and I didn't mean to do it. So that's my spiel. I'm really enthusiastic and very pro, let's get youth involved and new hams back on the air, and how to get people with technician licenses in particular to be on the air and to respond during emergencies, and to make the other activities like contesting friendly to meter. So I'm kind of in a weird niche.
Well, that's nice. And, all of us are in our own niches, and it's fun to see the cross pollination that we can have. So thank you.
Good word, cross pollination. I love it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go to Liz Sachs. Long time no see, Liz.
Well, and can you hear me? Because I've got problems with my laptop, so I can't use the audio. Yeah, Ellen probably comes closer to knowing how long I've been doing this. I've been doing this for almost 50 years now. Hard as it is to believe. And I stumbled into wireless before it was called wireless by answering a blind ad in a newspaper. But the pay was low enough, so I figured I qualified, and apparently they thought I did. They gave me a copy of the FCC rules. It turned out to be Motorola. I thought they made televisions. I thought it was going to be very sexy and exciting. They gave me a copy of the FCC rules for land mobile and said, why don't you read this? This is what you're going to be doing. And all I could think was they must have confused me with somebody else in the interviewing process. But I stuck with it, and I've been doing it for a long time. And it's been a very fun career. I'm a lawyer, and I represent lots of land mobile licensees, public safety and industrial and utilities and SMRs and all those kinds of folks. And I think I've been very fortunate that I like my clients and I like my partners. So I consider myself blessed in terms of my career.
Yeah. Thank you, Liz. Yeah. Liz and I met when in the, let's see, 87 time frame, when I was still working for GE Mobile Communications, and I was assigned to be their representative on the board of an organization called the American SMR Network Association. And Liz was the counsel for that organization. So that was my first industry association sort of gig.
And just so you know, Ellen, I still have pictures from Cancun.
Oh dear. When someone says they have pictures, you know, I'm sure they used to go to all these kind of really exotic places, and yeah, Cancun was fun.
Yeah, those were the good old days. Yeah. It
was. Okay, let's see. Next is, let's see, we got, everybody keeps moving around on my screen. Debbie Gray.
Well, greetings. I dialed in just a couple minutes late, so I'll kind of wing it here, but welcome to everybody. Yeah, I would echo the same comment. I was hoping to see a lot more folks. I got the word out on my side a little bit late. I'm up here in Northern Illinois, up in the Chicago area, city of Aurora. And my foray into electronics and wireless and all that, I got to credit my grandfather who got me into electronics. I was that next generation, Gen X, that finally got to pick out what we wanted to do, and I could actually enjoy math and not be ashamed of it and all that. And I've tried to pass that on to my daughter and my son and all that. Got into computers, though. It was funny because I got acquainted with shortwave radio and ham radio due to a neighbor when I was a kid, and fell in love with, listening to folks that were far away, especially late night AM radio, that sort of thing. But kind of took a ways away from that. I went off into the IT industry and was busy with that for the past several decades. Spent 15 of those years at Hewlett Packard. I've also been a number of different software companies. And I just finished up 3 years at US Cellular, which is where I got into the whole wireless telecom world. So I've done everything from teaching to mission critical support to past 3 years I've been embedded with a cybersecurity group doing project management and such. And that is a wild, wild world. And I'm really glad I went back and picked up ham radio about 10 years ago. Oddly enough, I picked it up after my kids had grown, and I wanted to pick up weather spotting because I also had a passion for weather. I grew up in central Indiana. So a number of the people that I encountered in that world, where you talk about NWS folks or local EMA, they're like, look, spotting is a group activity. You really have to do it with other people, and ham radio is like the best way to do it. So that's what got me back into the technology. Right now I'm a general, and I have a lot of fun with our local, ARES group. I've also helped out in the region as a district emergency coordinator, which I've done for a number of years. And just anything with mesh, telecom, computers, all this stuff, I just have a blast with it. Being a woman in this industry is a real challenge. It's just, I can't begin to, I'm sure you guys all run into some of the same things that I've run into. On the other hand, though, it's been really cool to see the industries mature, and bit by bit, more and more ladies show up. I think that was the hardest thing. I just recently, my position got eliminated at US Cellular, so I got laid off along with a couple of colleagues. And I was talking to one of the gals in our cybersecurity group, and it's like, oh, we were the two ladies in our group. So now she's got to carry the flag for a little while. But it's really great to connect with other women that are in this field, because I still run into a lot of assumptions about, oh, well, you're not technical. Well, yeah, actually I am. I've been a sysadmin, a network administrator. I've done a lot of different things. So it's nice to kind of beat back some of those stereotypes.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Holly, I believe she chatted, so I think maybe she can't come on, and so I'll let her come on if she wants to. But if she doesn't, she said, I am in Newmarket, Alabama, and I'm a ham with very limited experience trying to incorporate radio technology into my school environment. So, and I guess you and Anita know each other, so that's great. And if you want to jump in, Holly, feel free. Okay. Let's go to Rachel.
Well, let me comment for Holly then that she is modest. She is extremely dedicated to introducing ham into schools. She became a technician at Dayton over 2 years ago, I believe, approximately, and has been seeking to be mentored in how to do this. And Carol's helped. Carol, you probably know these ladies at ARIS, ARISS. There's teacher volunteers that came to their display booth at the Hamfest in Huntsville, and they talked. And there were several seminars that I believe she attended, but she's a really talented person. I just can't wait. She's trying to get comfortable with ham radio so that she can then turn around and teach it and make others comfortable with it. But she's a diamond in the rough, like you wouldn't believe. She's really cool.
Cool. Thank you for doing that, and welcome, Holly, too. So Rachel, let's get to you. Yeah, we've got let's see, Rachel, Anna Marie Burke, and Karen Jefferson, I think, are the people we have left. And so I'd like to get through this and talk a little bit about where we're going to go from here on. So,
well, I hope my battery will last, but I'm Rachel, and Holly, I hope you'll contact me, because I just accomplished an ARIS this past December. It was amazing. I was probably the first non-teacher community member to jump into a school and run an ARIS event in with the teachers, so the teachers didn't need to know ham. I helped them and guided them through it, and I even ran a elective class, which was really fun. But as for myself, I'm a military spouse. Currently, we're in Augusta, Georgia, Fort Gordon. I'm new to the area. When I say new, I've been here 2 years and I feel like I know nothing. But I've jumped into the local ham groups, and they've really kind of helped me feel like I'm more attached to the community. In my vast amounts of free time, I'm a PhD student at the University of North Dakota. I'm glad I can attend online. I don't do well with the snow. and I'm studying aerospace sciences. So I love cyber. I'm really into cyber. I'm trying to get more into radio, but I'd really like to get into satellite communications. My dream job would probably be Antarctica and working the SATCOMs for McMurdo or something. But right now I'd like to just learn the basics.
Nice, nice. Very, very cool. I love that ambition. Anna Marie.
Hey everybody, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm actually off a hotspot on my phone. I'm driving between, well, I'm not driving right now, parked, but going between one place to another. It's been great to hear all the stories today. I love it. I wanted to be an engineer since I was 10, and I actually wanted to do biomedical, to do prosthetics, and about passed out in the first video. I wasn't even at the body point, it was just a video. And so I switched into communications, and I went to work for Motorola and was there 23 years. And that's where I met Ellen. She was a wonderful mentor. And I think actually the only woman in the 23 or actually 30 years now in my management trail. So always an inspiration. And so I really enjoyed Motorola, though. Two-way radio development was some of the highlights of my career. Right now I'm living in Florida and I work for US Bank. I'm a senior vice president of software engineering because it's such a pivotal time at banks right now with all the digital currency and modernization. But yeah, I love two-way radios, and the mission critical is just so important.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Jefferson. I'm a manufacturer's representative, so unlike the rest of you, I am not technical. I am all about creating relationships, and I'm the person who always knows somebody who knows somebody. For when you need, whether it's coax cable or employee safety stuff, interoperability, I'm that person. I live in Denver, Colorado, and I am dealing with snow today, so I understand. We've got about 6 inches out on the ground and more falling still. So I am here to learn from y'all, and like you all on the sales side, it is way too male, too pale, and too stale.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's see, who have I missed? Anybody? Everybody keeps changing around. I don't think so. So, okay. So what I would like to do for the rest of the time, and we have about 15 minutes, is talk a little bit about what we're going to do here. As you know, we talked about all of our varying backgrounds, but that is, I think, the strength of a group of women like us. I had a couple of anecdotes that I was going to share with you. I'm not sure that we have time for that today. I can always do it at a follow-on meeting, but I'm going to share one because I think it kind of sort of encapsulates what it's like, and it still is like. This event happened in the late 90s. I was at Motorola, and I was a vice president at the time, but Motorola had lots of layers. And so I was a vice president who reported to a vice president who reported to a vice president. So my boss's boss, and I'm going to call him Jim, which was his name at the time. So my boss's boss would have operations reviews every quarter. And my boss would have me come up from Plantation, Florida, where I was running the business I mentioned before, the high tier subscriber business for Motorola, which was in the US alone about $500 million. And I had all the engineers in the manufacturing. I was responsible for all that. And so I would come up and talk about my business and give presentations to this group of senior staff people, senior vice presidents. And I had a proposal that I made to them about a bit of a reorganization and how we were doing our products. They had to approve it. So this is my boss's boss, named Jim. And I came up and I made this presentation one quarter, and they discussed it around the table, and some people had some reservations about it. So my boss said, my boss's boss, Jim, said, Ellen, I'd like you to go collect these pieces of information and come back next quarter and we'll discuss it again. So I said, fine. It was not one of those things that had to be done quickly. So I come back the next quarter do the presentation again, remind them what the deal was, give them the new information, and they talk around among themselves, and they still couldn't make up their mind to do it. So Jim said to me, well, Ellen, I'd like you to go get this more information. Some other questions have come up, and come back the next quarter. So we walk out for a break after my presentation, and one of the senior staff people, senior VPs, he was actually in sales for Motorola, had a very large region of the country. But he was an old timer, let's call him, just call him old timer. An old timer comes up to me and he goes, hey, Ellen, I just have one question for you. He said, you're back again, asking the same thing you did the last time. He said, why are you so whiny? Whiny. And I said, I'm whiny. And I, just immediately I thought he would never say that to a guy, right? Never. He might say other things, but he would never call a guy whiny, right? And so I just looked at him and I sort of smiled and I said, well, old timer, although that wasn't his name. His name was actually Jim. That's why I'm calling him old timer. It's confusing to have two Jims in the story. So I said, well, I have to tell you that I'm going to be whiny again because I'm coming. Jim just asked me to come back next quarter, so I'll be back and whining at you again. I just sort of just took it, not to worry. So the next quarter I come back, more detail. They made the decision to go with my plan. And afterwards, a break, and the same guy comes up to me and I'm going, oh gosh, what's he going to say this time? He said, hey, Ellen, you sure are pushy. So I thought, well, I graduated from whiny to pushy by getting the thing approved. So I guess I was making progress. And I think we all have had, moments like that where it's just so evident that being a woman is not quite accepted, is not quite there. And I think all of us, have had the opportunity to sort of take it in stride and sort of deal with it and just move on. And so I think that one of the things that is good about a group like this is the opportunity to either share those past experiences as illustrations of how we can deal with things like that with other women, or maybe if the timing is right, bringing an issue like that to this group to get some advice on, how best to handle a particular situation. I certainly have had the opportunity over my career of 42 years, I guess, to have come to people and ask for their support. And it might be a colleague at the same company. It might be a manager, not necessarily my boss, but another manager at the company. It might be my husband. It might be somebody from outside. But I think that we all have had that need to bounce things off of people and get some help in how to deal with things. So I would hope that this group could do that. That's number one. Another thing is the fact that we are all, and I think I might have missed Allison, actually. I see her popped in, but I think we all also could use some support in networking among ourselves, but sort of what I have found is so great is to have somebody say, oh, you work there. I know someone who can help you. I know of an opportunity that has come up, and just to have that opportunity to network or to even get advice on how to network. I've certainly, most people would tell me, even though I never thought I was a good networker, most people that I know tell me I'm a very good networker and that I do it both in work, but I also network with people outside of work and to get that kind of broader experience. And I do a lot of, not a lot, but I've done volunteer work and I've been active in the church. And so having sort of that broader perspective is very helpful. And then finally, I mentioned in my letter, mentoring. Anna Marie mentioned that I've done some mentoring with her. I think Diane would agree that I've done some mentoring with her, but I have been mentored in my life and I have been a mentor. And I think both are really, really important as you develop your career. and both are equally satisfying and helpful in your career. So those are the kinds of things I would like to discuss going forward in the future. And what I'd like, I'm going to ask you guys to, if you have any ideas now that you'd like to share about what we do. I am thinking about probably this being a quarterly group, but since we're just getting organized, I thought that maybe waiting a whole quarter would be too long. Because I'm a new grandmother, I think that my next month is going to be kind of busy, but I think that I could do this again, for example, in May. We could have another one of these sessions in May, so 2 months from now. And I'm going to ask, I don't know whether she's still there. Yeah, Amy. Oh, and Amy, I forgot to, you said you would go last, so I will let you go last. And I've got to get to Allison as well. But Amy, what I was thinking of is, since we're kind of running out of time tonight, is there like an email that people could send their thoughts to? I mean, it could be mine. That's fine. I don't mind if it's mine. Or if you'd rather, if there be a central place that RCA has that people would send it to, or should I just do my email?
Maybe they should just send it to both of us.
Okay. So what we'll do is we will send you an email. We have everybody's email, right? Mm-hmm. We'll send you an email after this and give you, if you have suggestions for what you'd like, things you'd like to talk about, topics you'd like to discuss. Maybe even if there's you would like to have somebody come speak to the group, that would be fine too. If we want to just have an open discussion, that's fine too. So I would like your inputs over the next couple of weeks while it's still fresh in your mind about what you'd like to get out of this, anything you'd like to accomplish, and how you think we can best go forward. Because my idea is not necessarily. Go ahead, Anita. Please.
Well, I just have had a recent experience with something in Huntsville and Parks on the Air, as I mentioned. Apparently there's been, you probably are all familiar with the technology of groups.io as a means of communication. I don't know how to set it up or do it, but it's a group where we all can talk to each other. Our messages are seen by all. But then there's the individual email option as well. I'd mentioned the groups.io would work for a beginning group such as this. It's just an idea.
I don't know that. Do you, Amy?
I'm just actually putting something in the chat here. We've got a couple of options we can do.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we use groups.io a lot for the Hurricane Net groups in particular. I mean, I participate with the Voice over IP group that helps the National Hurricane Center. We use groups.io a lot. It's basically what replaced Yahoo groups. So it's structured, it looks and feels very much the same way. It's kind of in the old kind of list server vein of things. So it's relatively straightforward. The thing is, everybody will see your email address if you sign up, if we create a group and subscribe to it, but that's about the only real consideration, I'd be concerned about.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't have a problem.
That actually is a good idea to do some sort of group thing. I've not heard of it. Microsoft Teams. I don't know that everybody has Microsoft. So something that's more open source is probably a better idea.
Yeah, groups.io is more of an open source type of endeavor within, especially being driven by a lot of folks within the ham community and without. Okay. So.
All right. So Allison just clicked in Discord. I don't know what that is, but Allison, I don't think I gave you a chance to introduce yourself. I'm not sure how I missed you on the screen. Did you? Or did I just did not write your name down?
Very late.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yes, I work with Diane at Zetron. I'm on the Codan side, so I'm from Victoria, British Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah, I am a product owner for one of our radio platforms. So doing like P25 and BFSI kind of things.
Sure. Nice, Allison. Good. I don't think we've met, have we?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. So everybody here might not know that, and that is, I mentioned that I work for Zetron, who was owned by Kenwood, but at the same time as I retired from the Kenwood board, Zetron /EF Johnson boards, Kenwood sold Zetron to Codan, which is a company based in Australia in our industry, and they're doing P25 work. So that's good. And then, thank you. And then Amy, you can introduce yourself too.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everybody. It's evening here in Minnesota. I am the woman behind the curtain for the Radio Club of America. All the emails you get, all the website stuff, all the, signups for the banquet and everything. That's me and my team. I have a business called the Sapphire Group. My business partner and I, it's 5 women, 5 chicks that get things done. And we manage nonprofit organizations. And so one of the groups that we work with is the Radio Club of America. And so my experience in wireless goes back to listening to WLS from Chicago late nights when I was a little kid. Pretty computer savvy, but I'm not a ham. I don't do any of that. I am learning a lot though. And it's been what, Carol, like 4 or 5 years. And so it's learning by osmosis from all of you. And you're also inspiring. And it's so great to see such a wide variety of people here. And we really hope you will help Ellen build this out and, tell your peers and your friends and, all of those folks so that we can continue to build the numbers on this and really get some good participation because it's so needed. It is just, you all are a testimony to that. So thanks.
And Amy mentioned to me earlier that, if we have a large, this is a nice size group. If we get more people in, that we can do things where we split up into groups and have group discussions so that it's a little bit more, smaller and personal for discussing a particular issue. Like, how have you used networking in your career to advance yourself, for example, or how have mentors been important to you, or how have you mentored people? How have you selected people to mentor? How have they selected you? Those kinds of things. This is just such a broad topic that can be both broad and deep. And I'm really looking forward to having these discussions with all of you. It's just going to be wonderful. And so invite your friends and your colleagues who might be interested in this kind of session. And we can expand it next time. The introductions took a while, but I think they were so well worthwhile because, we got to get to know each other, and trust is somewhat important. Well, very important actually in a group like this. So getting to know people is, and so as we grow, we're going to have to spend each session a little bit of time having at least the new people introduce themselves. And then what we can do is maybe reach out to people individually and say, hey, I connect with you on this particular topic so that they can start to getting to know the core group here. So hopefully this will work out. I'm really looking forward to spending more time with all of you. I really appreciate you coming to this first session and jumping in when you didn't know what the hell was going on.
Hey, Ellen, let me just say, in the Motorola lexicon, I would consider pushy a compliment.
That you what?
I would consider pushy a compliment.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I've been around a lot.
I certainly took it as more of a compliment than whiny, that's for sure. But I will say this: the guy who told me that, in my back of my head, I added the word broad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, I told you I'd let you go at 5 o'clock, and I'll be true to my word. So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.